What's going on, everybody? It's me, Quan Teasy, with the Christocrats and the Red Pill Reality. Here, what we do is we talk about the things of the day, the news of the day, and help you look at it through the eyes of a believer and a rational thinker. Today, we have a couple things I'm going to touch on today. Number one, a big brouhaha that's been going on about the national anthem. And is it racist because of the third verse? Number two, Trump has been putting in some work, man. Donald Trump, if you are a believer, then a lot of the things that he's doing, you cannot disagree with. He has extended protections to religious entities, protecting them against having to provide contraceptive stuff, being forced to do that against their religious beliefs for contraception or even for birth control. And as a believer, I don't see how any way that you could disagree with that. And then the last thing, kind of a fun thing, Jeremy Lin, who I love, and I don't even want to talk about the Knicks letting him go. That's sad. But the Jeremy Lin, he's a cool basketball player. He plays for the Brooklyn Nets, and dude has always had weird, funky hair. Now he came out on the court, I think it was last night, with dreads, and he is Asian. And we had some foreign players and some people have some issues with it, claiming that he is culturally appropriating black people. Let's get into it. All right, so just so you know, just a little disclaimer, we want to give you the tools to be able to analyze, and as a believer, line it up with the word and see what the word says about it, and that's how you should think as a believer. So let's get ready to get red pill. Okay, so number one, the Star Spangled Banner. Now, so the big issue with the Star Spangled Banner is that, number one, it's kind of been highlighted because the Colin Kaepernick stuff where he was kneeling, first sitting and then kneeling during the national anthem, which brought a light on the national anthem, which made people start reading it. And they get to the third verse that nobody ever sings. They read in the third verse what it says as to it's racist or whatever. So I'm going to put up what it said, what the third verse says right here, so you can see it. And you know what? What's crazy to me is if you read through it, it can be misleading because it does say mercenaries and slaves. It's talking about the slaves and how Francis Scott Key was like, their blood and we defeated them, and how dare they? If you read through it, that's what kind of saying. Some news outlets that are talking about it have made it seem as if that he was talking, Francis Scott Key was talking about black slaves, right? And that's what you would safely assume if you just kind of did a cursory reading of it, that they're talking about black slaves and how that would be racist because, it is true that there were black slaves that were recruited by the British Army. Now, this was the War of 1812, if you don't know. They were recruited by the British Army to fight for them, to fight for their freedom, right? And if part of the national anthem is singing against that, is words against that, like against the slave being free, then I could see where people would have a problem with it. If it was definitively factual, but it is not. The jury is still out on it. Given that Francis Scott Key did not write any backup information about why he wrote what he wrote, it could mean a couple different things. You probably haven't heard this. Now, just side note, the news outlet that mainly put this out there, have put this out there, several of them are definitely 100% left liberal leaning race baiters. What I would advise you to do is whenever you see a news story, go look at the source that's reporting it, and then look at the other stories that they write and see how they're bent. Back in the War of 1812, the British, they were capturing American sailors and forcing them to fight on the side of the British, conscripting them to fight on the side of the British in the Navy. They were also called slaves back then. During that time, they also would hire and force to fight for them Hessian mercenaries. So they were also fighting against Americans in the War of 1812 as well. In the context of the rest of the verses, it very well could be talking about those people, because it was common to call them slaves to the crown. It could be talking about them, or it could have been talking about the black slaves that defected and went to the British crown. Either way, but it's not definitive enough, if you do your scholarship, for you to say, oh, the national anthem is racist, forget it, I'm not singing it no more. And lift every voice and sing. See, that's not something that we should do, is kick out the national anthem. Think about it. The powers that be are trying to systematically pull down everything that we hold dear as Americans. And there's a reason why. And we'll get into that in another video. But there's a reason why they're doing that. But notice, they are doing it. It's happening. So I would say it is a non-issue, okay? Because nobody sings that verse anyway. And it's something that Francis Scott Key wrote a long time ago. I'm sure that some of your icons, some of the people that we like and love, have written and said things that we didn't like and would disagree with. But it doesn't take away from the whole premise of America as a whole. What is it? Oh, beautiful for spacious skies and amber waves of grain. But that whole thing. We only sing that verse anyway, so what does it matter? It just seems like a way for people to complain yet again and bring up complaints and be crybabies about it. So let's just put that to bed. Do your research on it. Neither one way or the other does it show what it actually means, and there's no way for us to figure out what was in Francis Scott Key's head. We can only assume. Because he had slaves, or because he, was racist or whatever. We don't know that that's exactly what he meant in that particular verse, because that's the only line in there that's talking about that. It could have meant one thing or it could have meant the other. So let's dead that, all right? Let's be logical and not just go with what is being told to us. Number two thing that I want to applaud, a round of applause for President Trump for upholding or rolling back some of these laws that were trying to force businesses to provide contraception and birth control to their employees through taxes and them having to pay for it and it having to be covered under Obamacare. And the reason why that should not be good is because what if you are a company that is a Christian company, and you're paying, and you don't believe in the morning after pill, or you don't believe in birth control to that measure, to where you that's on you as a human being. It is your choice. Why should the company have to provide something that you're making a choice about? That is, you can choose to have sex or not have sex. So on one end, this side of the company, or the people that want it to be provided, are telling us that we need to stay out of their business when it comes to being in a bedroom, but yet they want us to be in their business and pay for their business when they have a oopsie daisy and they want to terminate the pregnancy, or they want to stop themselves from having pregnancy. And believe it or not, you and I know that they can get contraception almost anywhere. So he's held that up. And why that's significant? Because last year, Catholic nuns were being forced and dragged into court to have to provide contraception and birth control against their seriously religiously held beliefs. So kudos to Trump. He's upholding the Constitution, upholding the law, and upholding things that he said that he would do in his campaign. And the last thing that we need to work through is this whole Jeremy Lin thing, which is crazy. Jeremy Lin, great basketball player. He had a great story. The Lin Sanity, one of the premier Asian players in the league, doing his thing. He's got traded around different teams over the years, and now he's kind of found his home with the Brooklyn Nets, and he's doing his thing, right? Love the guy. The Knicks were stupid and got rid of him. Can you imagine if Jeremy Lin and Porzingis was on the same team? Man, it'd be a great team. But I digress. So Jeremy Lin, right? He's a believer, great dude, loves God. The only thing is his hair is always weird. It's weird, that's one of his staples, I guess. And he came out yesterday with dreads. And Kenyon Martin, who plays in the 3-on-3 league, watches that, who, was a mediocre player at best when he was in the league, comes out, with something to complain about yet again, saying that because he had dreads, he was trying to be black and it was cultural appropriation. That is so stupid. Appropriation is a concept that says that you, and it's usually white people or other people, are taking from black people by liking and wanting to do things that we do, like dreading your hair or rapping or, I don't know, speaking in a slang like us, or wearing the clothes that we wear, or taking, the music that we create and adding to it or whatever. They say that that's basically saying that cultural appropriation is stealing our culture, which is so stupid because everybody borrows from everybody. If cultural appropriation was true, then nobody except Italians could eat Italian food. Nobody except white people could like the Celtics, because they come from, the Celtic, whatever. Nobody except for Germans could eat bratwurst. Nobody except Spanish people could do the salsa. I can't do it. Or do the merengue, or whatever, however you say it. This is dumb. It's just dumb. If you want equality and you cry and whine about equality, then that means that everybody gets to borrow from everybody else. That's what makes things interesting. So stupid. If you wear dreads, let the man wear dreads. Just comment on how ugly they look, because they look ugly and they look goofy, because he's got the rest of his head shaved and it's that's fine. But, saying it's cultural appropriation, is just hypocritical, because if you're driving a car, then you're culturally appropriating another culture's invention. Because we didn't invent the car. We may have done a lot of stuff to improve it, but we didn't invent the car. If you are on a computer, you are culturally appropriating the people that created the computer, it's just stupid. It goes on and on. It's just very stupid. So don't believe the hype. Don't believe the lies. Take the red pill, and more importantly, take the red blood of Jesus over your life to cleanse you and make you be able to see things correctly. The Bible says, come, let us reason together. And this has been me, your boy Kwam Teasy, with the Christocrats and the Red Pill Reality 1.